is not exactly high, that is for certain. However, it's going to be a busy race, 1 hour for GT4 racing with mandatory pit stops to look forward to. And there is a car to watch because Robert Consigny and Benjamin Lariche line up on the outside of the front row of the grid. Robert Consigny is going to be the start driver here.
Yeah, a little bit lucky Consigny as well, because he had that puncture, didn't he, after he didn't register a lap time because he lost it to track limits. They then went to race control to prove their innocence and got that lap time reinstated, which is very rare to say the least. So that car could have been starting in last place. There's actually on the front row, as Matteo Braga from Pirelli there looking at the cars to see what tyres they're on. In all honesty, are they on wets? Are they on slicks? That is a slick tyre there for Paul Petit, so that would be my choice as a driver. Yes, the track is still a bit damp, but as we saw the GT2s, their hour race we've just finished, it was really drying out quite quickly.
Now let us head to the grid. Alex Legui is down there, and Alberto Nasca, YouTube sensation over here, is with Alex on the grid.
Thought I'd have a quick chat to Lotus Cup 2024 winner Alberto Nasca. You having a good weekend?
Amazing weekend. I mean, for the experience, not really for the result, because you know we did a couple of races before this one. We came here, and for the first time we tried these new tires with new size, and the setup were completely off window, and it was really hard to find the quiet setup. And we had problems, we had some failures, and so the only first practice was the qualifying. So we keep changing setup after race after race. And yeah, this is just the beginning for us. This is just the beginning of the incredible journey, but Team Lotus is working incredibly amazing. We went from P34 to P16 in just 2 sessions, and that's the best goal possible for this weekend.
Amazing, amazing. And also I hear congratulations are in order. You're going to be a daddy.
Yeah, September. I don't know how I'm feeling, you know. It's they told me the best feeling is when you hold it in your arms, so we will see in September. Now I have to focus on the race because the priority now is to survive turn 1. I see everyone is going on slicks. I don't know if just one decided to go on slick and then all the others decided to change. We will see.
Best of luck, Alberto. Thank you.
Great character, Alberto Nasca, and it's good to have not just him in the championship, but also his co-driver Stefano D'Este, who's been around, seems like, for a long, long time. But also the Lotus on the grid. There's a team operating Lotuses in British GT, and the cars looked quick. If there were, occasional issues over the course of last weekend in British GT.
Yeah, I know those cars quite well under the Mahiki banner, the team manager, good-looking guy. When I look in the mirrors myself, obviously, and yeah, we had a fast car, a British GT Donington, experienced a few technical issues and team issues, which I'll take the hit on that one. But we have a fast car, and yeah, Lotus can make a fast car, so we could do that, and maybe we'll see that in the race. They are talking about how much progress they've made, but maybe even more there for the second. I'll tell you something that's even better than holding a newborn baby would be that championship trophy that is in between the cars on the front of the grid. That would be the ultimate goal for any of these drivers on the grid.
Now there, Jan Durant, who was second in the race this morning. Hadrian David, his co-driver, new to GT4. It's the first time they've really worked together as a combination, but it all seemed to fit together very, very nicely. And that Supra had really good pace at the start of the day. So again, that's a car to watch coming into this race.
Yeah, definitely, and it didn't look very strong at the start of its race, but then suddenly it found a load of pace, and then it struggled finally to get past the Mustang as well. So we were talking a lot yesterday in the 6-hour race for GT World Challenge in the GT3 category about pickup being an issue round here, and it's basically this new tyre seems to shed the rubber more aggressively. So as you go offline, you pick that up, and it's very hard to clean it off the tyre. And in these cooler conditions, that becomes even more of an issue. So I think we are experiencing that as the 5-minute board is lofted up and the Maserati MC20 lead car gets into position. With your expert commentary, David, I'd be interested to know what colour you would use to describe that lead car.
I'll have a look once it appears on screen as you look there into the Espace Bienvenue BMW of Benjamin Lessen and Riccardo van der Ende are that Maserati. Yeah, it's not quite lilac, is it? It's can I go with distinctive? Is that a colour?
Yeah, okay, I'll take that. Very politician-esque for your response.
Sort of rose-coloured, I would think. That rose.
Because this is where you can find a gold
wasn't, in fairness, Olivier Jouffret driving then. It was Eric Tremollet, the man that runs the team. But it was wrong, and they cop a penalty. And pole in bronze, Anthony de Barn, winner of the bronze AM class, I should be saying, in the first race. 3-minute board shown. Looking out of the window, you would say the road's pretty dry now. It was wet for the start of the GT2 race we just had, but that was an hour and a bit ago. And now the road pretty much dry. So teams with a bit more confidence maybe ready to go to battle now.
It's actually quite hard to call. I actually think the whole surface may still be damp, and we actually can't see any dry patches yet. I think it still looks a bit too dark to be fully dry. We will get a mega drone shot on the formation lap to see that, and that will really illustrate where the track is at, and the drivers will be very much exploring where the grip is as they get ready to attack this Paul Ricard circuit. Audi,
McLaren, Toyota, Ginetta, BMW, Aston Martin, Ford, Lotus, Porsche are all represented on this grid. It is a Mercedes at the very back because Elias Niskanen had a wheel part company in qualifying, so he didn't get a lap in. And another car that had problems in the qualifying session was Michael Haverant's Mustang, so that's going to be 41st on this 42-strong grid. You're looking at number 74, Aston Martin there, David Kuhlmann. That's another car that ought to be there or thereabouts. That runs within the Silver Cup. And the countdown continuing now, ready to get the cars underway for our second race of the weekend. David Kuhlmann, ex-Formula Renault racer, shares with the British driver Will Orton. And engines will fire up on instruction at the 1-minute board. The two Borissown Automotive BMWs have put themselves together on the grid. 12 is Gabriele Piana, but 11, one slot behind on the grid, is there Pedro Ibrahim, who was doing the GT3 race last night. Won his class, didn't he, as well? He won the silver class. James Caddett and Charles Clark.
Yeah, in a BMW M4, but GT3. Quite different beasts there. We talk a fair bit about the difference in GT4 and GT3, but if you are new, the easy rule is 90% of a GT4 car is road car based, 10% race car, and in GT3 it's the complete opposite. 10% road car, 90% race car, and that's why they look quite different, but also the lap time they generate roughly 10 seconds a lap different depending on the length of the lap. But these much more road-based cars, not easier to drive, in my opinion, quite the opposite, because they're not optimized to be driven on track like a GT3. I find them harder to generate a lap time, and I think that's why we see so much great racing from this category.
And the great variety of brands and the balance of performance that we have in GT4 equates them. You'll find some cars good in a straight line, other cars good through a corner, but effectively they're all doing the same lap time. What makes a difference, of course, is the man behind the wheel, and in things like AM or Pro-Am, you welcome into it the less experienced or the amateur racer, and the Silver Cup is for the young guns. You're not talking about people with decades of experience. It's sort of young, aspiring pro racing drivers. So the green flag is shown at the back that says everybody is ready to go. The green flag at the front allows the lead car, the Maserati, to accelerate away, and now the race cars follow suit. So it is going to be Paul Petit in the green Audi that leads the way. The yellow McLaren, Mackenzie Cresswell, who raced well in the earlier race today, third over the line, but then a penalty was given for an earlier offence, and it put them to fourth, he and Josh Rattigan. But this is the grid. Paul Petit starting on pole position with Robert Consigny alongside. Mackenzie Cresswell third, and Jan Duran is fourth, ahead of the Ginetta of Senna van Valstein, and then Benjamin Lessen's BMW starting sixth. Seventh is Clement Seiler, with Olivier Jouffret next, ahead of Ruben Del Sart and David Kuhlmann, both in Aston Martins. Then two BMWs, Gabriele Piana alongside stablemate Pedro Ibrahim. Next on the grid, Marco Signoretti, the race one winner, Alex Papadopoulos alongside, ahead of Cindy Goudet and Thibaut Mojica. We'll come back to him in a moment. There's a story attached to Mojica. Alberto Nasca's Lotus has Gustavo Xavier's Porsche alongside. Then it's Mikael Loboda and Julius Steinarsson next, ahead of Anthony de Barn and the Israeli driver Guy Albag. Alexander Weintraub has Mathieu Nomblot for company. Joachim Bolting is next with Tudor Tudoraci alongside him. Miguel Cristobal has Nico Farroran, 28th on the grid, story attached to that car as well. Bas Visser next, then Fabian Duffieux ahead of Joachim Balder and Daniel Blickler. Philippe Talamy is on race 17 with Lucas Stugliano. Then it is Paolo Maloney's BMW and Mikael Brunhagen's Toyota. Keith Gatehouse comes next with Mats Olsen for company. Then it is the Tamil actor Ajith Kumar alongside Charlie Hart. Michiel Haverans is on the penultimate rank of the grid alongside Elias Niskanen. Now, the two I was talking about having a story attached, Nico Ferrarant and Vinny Beltramelli, they are given an extra 10 seconds in the pits, given the respective pace of the drivers within Pro-Am, and the Mojica brothers, number 51 Ginetta, 5 seconds extra in the pits. This is sort of the bronze over performance, if you like, BOP that. So they were very quick, and the easiest way just to try and equate things is to give a little bit of extra time to those cars relative to the lap times of the drivers through the pit stops. So 10 seconds for number 24 Porsche, 5 seconds for number 51 Ginetta, just to try and equate things within the Pro-Am category.
Yeah, going on board of that 81 McLaren, it was Aston Miller that started it earlier. Really struggled this weekend. RAFA much further down the grid than they thought they would be. We're riding on board there in 21st position, so that is right in the middle of the pack, isn't it? And that's normally where the action is at, so I think we'll get some good shots from the onboard on the 81 McLaren there. And
a couple of cars being instructed to head to the pit lane. One of them is Alberto Nasca's Lotus, the other number 259, which is Bas Visser's Porsche, must come into the pits for adjustments to the tyre pressures. Now, there is a regulation tyre pressure set that is checked, and if the tyre technicians find it's wrong, they want the car sorted.
Yeah, exactly. Too low, and you have to come in. But looks like we're going for another formation lap here, doesn't it? The car still out, nothing on our timing screens, but that's definitely the case. We saw the same in the previous GT2 race as well. But the clock, I think, will start any second now,
as the cars come over the line. So the race now is on. This counts within the hour, this second green flag lap, and it's just because they've had no real damp running. So an extra lap just lets the drivers assess what the track surface is like. Very rare that you come to Paul Ricard and talk about rain.
The interesting thing, those two cars with the two lower tyre pressures, is that by the time they've done that lap where they've been adjudged to be too low, they probably will be above the minimum 1.3 bar. So I don't know what Pirelli will do. So let's just say, for argument's sake, on the grid they're a 1.25 bar, so 0.05 too low. They would easily get 0.1, if not 0.2 of a bar on that lap. So they could quite possibly come in and be a 1.45. So then they don't need to add any air, and they just have to leave. So I think it's kind of a passive-aggressive penalty there. They are under the rules, and they're basically saying you need to come in and check that you are compliant to said regulation.
And don't do it again, because this is what happens. So the two cars losing time, they're going to be able to join in, but at the back, they need to get out, of course, otherwise they're going to lose a lap.
Yeah, that is the big problem. They should do, especially at the pace here. And there should be a green light on pit exit. The only reason pit exit light goes red is when the safety car and the train are at the last corner. The Lotus has definitely left. That was only stationary for around 22 seconds based on its time, and actually the Porsche even less, probably 15 seconds. So yeah, those cars live to fight another day, but quite a big loss of track position for both of those.
It's going to put them on the back foot, isn't it, as the field now works its way along the Mistral Straight. You are on board with number 81, the Aston Miller Julius Dynasson McLaren. What's really nice about this championship, particularly in silver, which I know it's aimed for, you're looking at young guns. You know, they've not been racing for many seasons. They might have come out of a junior category or single-seaters for a season or two, but this is where you find the next generation of stars that we, if you like, scoop up and put in the Silver Cup in GT World Challenge. Yeah,
exactly that. It's a good breeding ground for these drivers to understand GT racing without the financial pressures and the competitive pressures that GT3 offers you there. And yeah, it's a great ladder that SRO have created, and it's one myself that I've used the ladder and this rung of it in previous years, and GT4 still has a huge place in motorsport. We wrongly sometimes think GT4, because it's slower than GT3, is a worse off sibling, but in my opinion at the moment the racing is better, less aero dependency from these cars, and I just love watching how much they move around underneath the driver.
And the championship has always been entertaining, always been good over the last 5, 6, 7 years, but it's sort of gone up a notch of late. The driving standards are better, the racing is very, very competitive, you don't get quite as much damage, and as the cars now come through Le Beausset, trying to pick a winner is well nigh impossible.
Yep, it really is, because we sort of got caught blindsided earlier by the Mustang. Had a strongish first stint with Eric Evans, and then a good pit stop from Academy. They were under their minimum pit stop time by 0.4 of a second, but you are allowed a 1 second joker in one of the two races, so they can't afford to do that again. But I'm sure Matt Nichol-Jones, team boss at Academy, used that joker to help them propel themselves up after stint 1 into stint 2, which ultimately helped them secure the win.
So the cars now make themselves into grid formation. There is Marco Signoretti in the Mustang with Alex Papadopoulos on the outside. That Mercedes looked good in the first race, but did fade away right towards the very end. Julius Dynason here in 81, sharing with Aston Miller. He starts to get himself into position as well. Julius Dynason, the Danish Formula 4 champion back in 2022, raced in the BMW M2 Cup in Germany. Robert Consonny, perhaps he's the man to watch here in these testing conditions, ex-rally man. So you take somebody onto a rally stage, say go, and they have to learn, and learn fast. So if anybody can cope with a greasy track, he's your man, I suspect, in the Audi, but he's stablemate out of the same team, Team Speed Car. Paul Petit lining up on pole position in the green Audi there. The cars come up towards turn 15 now. Then the lights on the gantry on red. If the race director João Duval is happy, he'll give the instruction to get the race underway. And our second race of the season in GT4 European Series is going to be about 55.5 minutes when the lights go to green. Now it is blast off. There was a Porsche that popped out of line further back. I think that was the Nico Farraran car. But a demon start by Jan Duran in the Toyota Supra around the outside line. He's got his nose in front to get past Consonny. Up the inside line goes Paul Petit. And here comes Duran, and here comes Benjamin Lessen's BMW round the outside. The Toyota takes the lead. The BMW goes wide and skips off the circuit, and so do others. Back onto the road. Well, Jan Duran leads, but he was off the racetrack, and he certainly gained an advantage by that.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that one. I think the race director's got a big call there to make. Would he be in the lead if that was a solid wall on the inside? The answer there, the Audi, a huge snap of oversteer there, also has to take a shortcut, which then really makes the impetus. They're having to go hard left to get around the bollard. That is the rule, so they've stuck to it. Look how wet it is offline. They're on slick tyres. That is treacherous down there at turn number 5, Camp Corner. They've all survived so far, but tiptoeing around. I think we're going to see a penalty incoming for Duran in that Toyota, which is leading the race currently. Yeah,
the start is under investigation and turn 1 is under investigation, so there's a lot to look at. It might not be an instant reply, so to speak, as to who might be penalised, who might be looked at. Nico Farraran made a good start, as I say, and he did an absolute best of anybody in Sector 1, as the leaders then now come up towards the chicane. Robert Consonny then ahead, he's jumped clear of the Supra, which has dropped back. Now, is that Jan Duran self-censoring, having thought, yeah, I did gain an advantage, let me drop back into the pack, I'll give back those places. So Robert Consonny leads the way. In second place, looks like Senna van Valstein's Ginetto. Whoops, mayhem breaks out in the chicane. One of the Porsches gets caught up in all of that. That might have been Farraran's car as he tries, yes it is, to get it back in the right direction. Yellow's in sector 2, therefore, as it is. Consonny leading the way. Cars now pound through scene for the first time of asking. Second is Van Valstein's Ginetta. Third, it is Jan Duran's Toyota Supra. And then you've got Piana and his teammate Pedro Ibrahim in the BMWs. They've made really good starts, haven't they, to get up there. Look, the bright blue BMWs now going third and fourth because Jan Duran in the Supra is fading. Yeah, I think he was smart to let those places go from the lead, but those Borsan BMWs on wet tyres, because they've both made huge gains, 8 and 6 places respectively. I can't see it being a wet race, but on these first few laps, cold tyres, they are. There's no Pirelli tyre marking on those tyre walls that I can see. I think both of those cars are on wet tyres. There's no yellow on the top, maybe on the rear, maybe I've called that wrong, but maybe those drivers have just had the start of their lives, but they have done so well. Car running wide in the background. It'll be interesting to see if we get any intel from pit lane and Alex to see what those cars have started on, but great start from both BMWs. Absolutely. Constantly then leads the way. Van Valstein was second, but now it is going to be Pedro Ibrahim up into second place, and Paul Petit and Jan Duran from rows 1 and 2 respectively struggling. Constantly leads the way, so it's a really jumbled order. Marco Signoretti coming back at Paul Petit. Now that green Audi was the one that had the wheel bearing failure in the first race, and it still doesn't look totally hooked up here, and Jan Duran in the Supra is also losing time. Signoretti up the inside, can't get past the Audi, just fends off the Toyota. Up the curb goes Signoretti, and offline goes Duran, finds it's wet, finds it slippy, loses the place to Mackenzie Cresswell's yellow McLaren. Then he hits him, knocks him sideways, way out wide on the outside line there, the Aston Martin of Clement Seiler.
Supra's lurching left to right, isn't it? Duran looks like he's having a sneezing fit behind the wheel there, snatching left to right as these BMWs attack, attack, attack. Audi, BMW, Ginetta, BMW. It's a great fight. 3 different manufacturers running in the front order. Who's going to blink first? Big break. They're having to turn in early. We see the BMW go to the outside. Is he going to get the lead? That would be an amazing move. Just so much more grip than anyone else out there. If they are all on slicks, then they have done a good job of getting some heat into these tyres, because they look in a completely different league to everyone else right now. Yeah,
it's like night and day, isn't it? So the BMWs then are now first and fourth. So Pedro Ibrahim was ahead of Gabriele Piana at the start of the lap. Piana, one of the more experienced GT4 drivers then, and as the cars now work their way yet again up towards the end of the lap, I'm putting my money on Piana being the trailblazer here. Senna van Valstein having a look to get past Robert Constantini as they come into view once again. So there, the lead BMW slots through, and it is in fact Pedro Ibrahim who is at the front at the moment. Gabriele Piana, number 12 BMW, fourth in the queue, trying to find his way past Van Valstein's Ginetta. So Pedro Ibrahim here going really, really well.
Yeah, looking fast as well, nice and aggressive. Obviously had the experience of the car last night, GT3 wise. Still trying to spot what these tyres are. The new wet from Pirelli is much more of an intermediate, but I think they are slick tyres when you just caught the end of it. And I think these guys have just done a mega job setup wise and getting the tyres up to temperature quicker than everyone else. The Audi fight back though into turn 1. Yeah.
So that was constantly to the inside. Can't do it. Senna van Valstein's Ginetta right there in the queue as well in third place. And now Gabriele Piana says, I'm just as good, if not better than Ibrahim. I won this championship 2 years ago, remember? I'm trying to get past Van Valstein, but he can't do it. Van Valstein's Ginetta proving to be a wide car, and Ibrahim now is building a small gap as now Piana sends it up the inside, still can't do it. Yellow in sector 3.
Yeah, it was close to contact there. Piana did well. He was going softly, softly, then he went hard, hard into 3. And luckily for him, that Ginetta just opened up the steering wheel and gave him a tiny bit of space, so they didn't have too big a contact. Huge slide there from the Ginetta, picking up the throttle, still damp round that part of the circuit. A dry line slowly appearing in places, but look at Signoretti in that Mustang coming, and actually Paul Petit is staying with. There is a yellow flag for the Lotus. That looks like it's got an issue coming around turn number 4 there, and hopefully can get going, because that is in a dangerous place. Don't know what the problem would have been, and we have a car in the barrier, looks like on the exit of the last corner. Albrecht there in the Porsche. If that car doesn't get going, are we going to see a full course yellow?
Daniel Bleckler's Porsche, in fact, wrong graphic. So Daniel Bleckler is up against the wall. So that car trying to rejoin. It's not got across the line yet. Pedro Ibrahim getting away. Now Gabriele Piana not getting through the traffic as well. So through they go. The slick-shod BMWs, first and fourth. We understand they are on slicks, not wet tyres. And now the race is starting to plateau a little bit. Piana is now starting to struggle to get himself up the order. He can't make the progress through that Ibrahim did. So there you've got Van Valstein coming up through the left-hander. That brings them up now through Bendor. So Ibrahim in the lead, getting away. Now I think you were right, Joe, in suggesting that they just got the heat into them earlier, because now that the race has stabilised, there's no way that Piana is making the same progress that they were over the first, lap and a half or so. Now things have kind of stabilised. Ibrahim is the man in charge, but look, Piana fourth, he's been stuck there behind Senna van Valstein for over a lap.
Yeah, exactly that, and it's starting to go away from them. Are we slowing for a full course yellow? It looks like we are, 80 kilometres an hour. Everyone getting it stopped well so far. Sometimes you do get that concertina effect, and yeah, our first thought once we saw those cars going through a left-hander, we could see their right tyres. You couldn't see it, but the left side definitely has that marking on of the slick tyres. Are they gone too aggressive? Are they going to start to go away? That Lotus didn't get going again, is getting pushed to the inside of turn number 7, and we are going to have to recover that Porsche at the last corner too. Will this go to a full course yellow? This is going to be right on the cusp, isn't it, of it being in between a short full course yellow where we go back to green, bit of damage on that Ginetta on the front corner, or is it a long full course yellow where we go to safety car to allow the drivers to get the temperature back in those tyres?
So this to try and get the Porsche out of harm's way, and the recovery vehicle is on its way. I can see it just going up the pit straight, so it's going to be a few seconds before that gets there. And the Drivers in the meantime continue to circulate at this delta pace. Pedro Ibrahim then is the race leader, and there Gabriele Piana's BMW right on the back of Senna van Valstein. They are third and fourth, so Ibrahim leads Robert Consani, then it's Van Valstein in that Ginetta that was 11th in the first race from Gabriele Piana, the champion 2 years ago, not with this team but in the same type of car. Marco Signoretti, the race 1 winner, is 5th. 6th is Paul Petit, but that pole-sitting Audi still seems to be struggling as it did in the first race.
Yeah, it struggled more at the start and seemed to come back to life a little bit on the last couple of laps before this four-course yellow was called. But yeah, strange, the real Jekyll and Hyde weekend for them yesterday. Very, very strong. Looks like the BMW 80Ks is a bit more. And it's just trying to push the Ginetta up speed-wise, and it looks aggressive and uncalled for potentially. But if this goes back to green, the distance they're losing to the front two will be eating away at Piana's chances of trying to get on equal terms with them. Let's go for a replay of the start. Watch this Supra go in too hot, cut the corner, and that's why it inherited the lead, in my opinion.
And he's now in 8th place, so he gave some of the places back, but there's clearly something not quite right in getting the tyres up to temperature. That was Jan Duran going off the road, way off the road, so also as Benjamin Lassen, and then it was a case of people sort of applying penalties to themselves. Marco Signoretti was way wide, but he also had a good run through the first few corners because it got all busy here, didn't it? Because Consani had a big wobble and had to take to the escape road, and so did another of the BMWs, which I think was probably Piana's car, which is why Ibrahim got ahead of him. Then it all got crowded down at the bottom of the circuit, and yeah, pot luck as to where you rejoin. Benjamin Lassen got it wrong there. That's why he fell back in the pack. He's down in 11th place. So bit of pot luck as to where you were on the racetrack there, and of course, as you said at the time, taking that escape road and the bypass to rejoin got you onto all the wet parts offline. Yeah, and there's still a lot of wet parts, aren't there? Fastest lap of the race, 5 seconds off qualifying. Of course, the race is never going to be as quick as qualifying, but that gap should be more like 1.5 to 2 seconds at this moment in time. So the track definitely 2 to 3 seconds slower, and we are going to go to safety car, the Maserati MC20, ready to pick the leaders up, and that will give us a few laps to get some more temperature in the cars. Piana can stop pushing that Ginetta because that gap now will be null and void. So Pedro Ibrahim was 0.6 of a second up the road, but everything's going to close up now. Daniel Blickler's Porsche was the one up against the wall. Alberto Nasca's Lotus did get going again, did it not? But we're anticipating the safety car then on track. And when we go safety car, the pace will quicken, of course. That's why we have the safety car. That goes at what are loosely termed motorway speed. You're on board with Joshua Dynison, and he, in the McLaren number 81, circulates 17th. That's the race 1 winning car. Marco Signoretti at the wheel. Well, that was quite a long way back on the grid, but 5th. He benefited hugely from the dramas on the first 3 or 4 corners, didn't he, with people going off the road. See the marshals with the yellow flags trying to guide the cars very, very wide, off the road, in fact, so that they are away from any debris and away from the recovery operation. That's the Mojica family's Ginetta, the Mojica brothers, and there you see the marshals forcing the cars wide off the racetrack so that there's ample room for the teams to work to get that Porsche out of harm's way. Yeah, smart work means they can work safer and faster. The car's already on the flatbed. That will then lift back onto that truck, and that will get out of the way. And I think we'll go probably full course yellow into safety car at the end of this lap. A couple of laps of safety car to get the temperatures into the tyres, and then we'll get back racing. So could potentially go green roughly when the pit window opens in 8 minutes' time.
Worried about skin problems this summer? Say goodbye to suntan and greasy skin with the all-new Active Charcoal Facial from Green Trends. Infused with activated charcoal and detan agent, this unique facial cleanses pores, leaving skin fairer and grime-free. Get your Active Charcoal Facial at...
Director, will it be full safety car procedure? So Pedro Ibrahim's BMW leads the way from Robert Consani's Audi, Senna van Valstein's Ginetta 3rd, Gabriele Piana's BMW 4th, 5th Marco Signoretti's Mustang, the race 1 winning car, 6th Paul Petit's somewhat troubled Audi, 7th is Mackenzie Cresswell in the McLaren that he shares with last year's silver champion Josh Rattigan. In 8th place, Jan Duran. Now that Supra, yeah, okay, he gave places back early on, but I think he struggled on the first lap and a half maybe, to get any warmth into the tyres because more places were lost. 9th is Thibaut Mojica. leading Pro-Am, but with an extra 5 seconds to serve in the pits. And in 10th place, number 39 of Clement Seiler. Now we go safety car then. Safety car procedure is called for. And the Maserati, there it is, will put the lights on, and Pedro Ibrahim will slot in behind. And hopefully it's just going to be one lap to get everything up to temperature, and then they can go storming away once again. GT4 European Series. Oh, big cloud of something out of the back of the Ginetta there from Senna van Valstein. Only him doing that, so I don't think it was him running over something, but it's only the Ginetta from which the smoke or dust seemed to come out of the back thereof.
Yeah, maybe just locking the tyre up, ABS in all of these cars, but when the brakes are cold and tyres, sometimes the ABS can't react quick enough, so maybe just grabbed a front brake there, just getting some temperatures back in, but that's exactly why we have a safety car, to build that back up. Imagine if we just went straight back to green, then all of those cars would have been suffering similar fortunes to that Ginetta, which will have zero issue, but potentially a small flat spot on one of those tyres.
We had 6 hours of GT3 racing last night without a single safety car. We had a few full course yellows, brief ones, but we got through without any safety car at all, and it will be in this lap. So it is just sort of half a lap to get things up to speed, but we had the Legend safety car in this lap. Maybe it's just for a safer restart, really, but they're really forcing the warmth back into the tyres now is Pedro Ibrahim, the team manager of car number 87, being summoned to race control immediately, and 87 is the Toyota Supra of Jan Duran that was way off the racetrack at the first corner. So even though the team may say, well, he gave places back, race control want a word.
Yeah, it's never a positive chat. I now know that as my role as team manager in British GT.
It's not to ask about your health, is it?
Yeah, or to say well done, which is a shame.
So the safety car peels back in then, so kind of half a lap of safety car really. We are going to go racing. So Pedro Ibrahim, Robert Consani, Senna van Valstein, Gabriele Piana, Marco Signoretti, the leading quintet as they come up to the line. Green flag waves, and this will get things back underway with 5 minutes before the pit window opens. Battle is on there as Jan Duran tries to have a go one side, then the other, and Mackenzie Cresswell's McLaren, and the Toyota Supra lines up for a go on the inside. More smoke, look out of the back of the Ginetta that goes straight on. Senna van Valstein makes a real mons of turn one, way off the escape road, flicks the sat-nav on to try to work out how he gets back onto the circuit, and he'll rejoin somewhere in the pack as they're 3 wide. You've got BMW, Aston Martin, and Mustang. On the outside line, the Mustang. And that's going to get crowded out, isn't it, as they get into the braking zone as down they come. Ginetta, in fact, it was on the outside line, so the Mojica Ginetta involved in that. And a drama there for another car that suddenly slowed offline. The drone chases down towards turn 5.
Contact in the background. That Ginetta gets spun around, and that was a pretty innocent party in that move. I think the other Ginetta just doesn't have any ABS. Huge lock-up into turn number 1, so I don't know if that's a wheel speed sensor failure on that Ginetta, or they just need to reset the system, but that's going to be hard work for the number 10 Ginetta. False start, 5-second penalty for number 128, the Matteo Nomblo Porsche, as the rest of the cars now battle their way through the chicane. So for the lead, Pedro Ibrahim, Robert Consani still tied together sideways. Jan Duran with this Damocletian visit of the team manager to race control, possibly to affect their ultimate race outcome. Marco Signoretti in the Mustang presses on, and yes, it was 51 Ginetta of Thibaut Mojica that got turned around, as you were hearing from race director Joel Doval. That was the car that gained an extra 5 seconds to serve on its pit stop anyway, and its race has kind of unravelled a bit now, to say the very least, as Mackenzie Cresswell heads up to Le Beausset. And again, that big lock-up comes from Senna van Valstein, who's way off the road. So when I saw something coming out of the car on that safety car lap, well, you've seen it twice more now, once at turn 1, now here at Le Beausset, and you kind of think they're getting to a point where they need to bring that to the pits. Yeah, it's so hard to drive a car that's designed with ABS to just not lock up constantly, and that is what we're seeing, aren't we? So yeah, the only hope they can do is when they turn the car off and on again, the ABS comes back to life, and the second stint will be okay. Yellow flag sector 3. I wonder if that was for the Ginetta running wide, or it's another incident. It's another incident, one of the BMWs. That's got to be Piana, hasn't it? And the Mustang, I think, was in strife as well, because that's for the lead as Consani gets ahead now of Pedro Ibrahim. But it looks as though Signoretti and Piana have had a bit of a tangle down at the exit of Virage de la Tour down to Virage du Pont. New race leader, Robert Consani, up into the lead. Down to second then goes Pedro Ibrahim.
and Ibrahim tries to fight back the Brazilian driver coming out of turn 2. There in the meantime is Van Valstein being a bit more cautious in the Ginetta on this lap, but he loses out to Guy Alberg in the Porsche Cayman. You can see in the background Piana is running once again, so Piana was 11th over the line and Signoretti down in 14th after they tripped over each other.
Yeah, I wonder what happened there. The time of contact, Signoretti was in front, so was it Piana just being a bit aggressive with the move there? And both cars were so far off the track, there must have been a big impact, and I worry there's going to be some damage on both of those.
Fastest lap of the race to Robert Consony, and he's now in the lead as he tries to break away from Pedro Ibrahim's BMW. We're about 1 minute and 3/4 off the pit window. There's confirmation of Consony's hot lap. Into the chicane he comes, bouncing up the curb. Robert Consony and Benjamin Lariche have been together as a combination for quite a long time now. They know the car, and there was the synchronised spinning. Signoretti and Ibrahim somehow getting themselves together and turned around.
Yeah, it's quite hard to call there. It's carnage in the background there around Le Bousset. Can't see which cars started which, but that was the race leading car earlier on this morning, wasn't it?
Yeah, the Joachim Bolting Porsche with the clown's face on the side was one. This is Josh Dynason who's getting back onto the road, having had a delay at the chicane by the look of it.
He's got a puncher. He's got a bit of right hand down there going in a straight line, either suspension damage or a puncher. So suddenly this race coming alive. 1 minute till we can pit. So these cars are too close to pit entry to be able to take it. But anyone that's in sector 2 will be able to pit. But that's no one really inside the top 20.
Indeed so, but this might be a roll of the dice for some that are delayed further back there. All of a sudden up into 3rd place with the mayhem breaking out around his Paul Petit. So the Audi looking a bit more competitive now. 4th, Jan Duran, Mackenzie Cresswell 5th, Benjamin Lassen 6th, that's Clement Silas 7th, Senna Van Valstein is 8th, Guy Alberg is 9th, and in 10th place, trying to recover is Gabriele Piana, who had a spin here a lap ago. He won't like that, as up the inside goes Guy Alberg against the Van Valstein Ginetta, and that ends up being squeezed out wide. That might give Piana a chance to challenge as well as they come up towards the end now of lap number 8. Just over 35 minutes of the race to go.
Cresswell looks to the inside there of the BMW, but thinks better of it. The McLaren's still struggling. Straight line speed, it's more of a corner car, which is frustrating for the drivers. They speak about getting stuck behind a car and then not having the power to out-drag them to create the overtake. Pit lane now open for 10 minutes.
So if you're at the back of the queue, you can come in early, and Josh Dynason has done just that. If he did have a puncture, that's been at the perfect moment because he can combine changing the tyre with changing the driver to give way to Aston Miller. And this is the view on board as the McLaren stops.
He's not getting out of the car, is he? Interestingly,
no,
so either he doesn't know the pit well. That's a front left suspension or tyre failure of some form. I think it's the former, because it looks like the whole wheel is hanging off there. Was that the Porsche that had contact with the Ginetta at the last corner?
Possibly so. It certainly had a spin early on when Nico Farrarin lost it at the chicane, and Farrarin, who was victorious in Pro-Am early on in the day, heading for the pits, is now there. Look, Piana gets back up the inside of Van Valstein and goes through. Guy Alberg is next in the queue behind him. Got a yellow flag in sector 1 as we've been looking at all the dramas going on. This is Marco Signoretti, winner of race 1, on his toes to try to get himself up past the Cayman ahead. There's an awful lot going on and lots of people under investigation. So where to look next?
Somewhere on this 5.8 kilometre track here at Paul Ricard as we fly into turn 10. The Ginetta struggling to keep up. Signoretti trying to get back up to where he was. Piana, him and Signoretti obviously getting together. Only one car between them now, that Ginetta. This is going to be difficult to get back up to the front. Remember that 61 Academy Mustang won race 1 this morning and at the moment is down in 10th position.
That's right, so we understand that Nico Farrarin's Porsche has stopped in a safe position, so no need to neutralise the race for that. Robert Consony carries on for another lap, getting away a little bit from Pedro Ibrahim. Now Paul Petit, having lost ground early on, has now done the fastest lap of the race. He's in 3rd as Jan Duran brings the Supra into the pit lane.
Yeah, early pit there really for that car, but deciding maybe to get out of the traffic and into some free air. Not the worst decision. We've got a report that car 81 had a damaged wheel, so it'd be interesting to see if they got their minimum pit stop time and got Aston Miller in or not in that 81 McLaren.
Number 31, Guy Alberg, 9th, has got a 10-second penalty to serve on his pit stop for causing a collision. So the Israeli driver going well, but that car is going to lose ground. Guy Alberg, former karter, and while he was a karter, spent a lot of his time promoting the cause of his sister, who was one of the people taken hostage on that October the 7th. Thankfully released, which is the good news, but it was a traumatic time for the family, and Guy Orbach raising a lot of awareness through his racing. There into the pit lane is the number 64 Olivier Jouffret, now Eric Tremollet Mercedes. So driver change there, that's part of the regulation stops. Quite a few are in the pits. Van Valstein's brought that troubled Ginetta in as well, as you look at the Gabriela Yilkova Toyota Supra heading onto the Mistral Straight.
Yeah, and we got the report on the damaged wheel on the 81, but that car's been in the pit lane for 3 minutes, so it must be some suspension damage as well, so that's going to be day done for that car. So
what have we got left? Just under 32 minutes. Still the bulk of the leaders yet to stop. Rebecca Constantine here trying to build up the race lead. There is the Supra, Cindy Goudet, Gabriela Yilkova, the drivers. Cindy Goudet at the wheel of it, fending off the Porsche Cayman of Gustavo Xavier. They are 13th and 14th at the moment, and Cindy Goudet leading her class as well, leading the Pro-Am category right now, and being led, as often is the case, by Anthony de Barn.
Cars flooding out onto the circuit. Some wet tyres on the rear of that car. So was that what they started on, that Supra? They were slick getting ready, I think. And yeah, just a side note there, cars leaving the pit lane had to be so careful not to cross the white blend line here. You can see that yellow arrow flashing. That's for drivers on circuit, saying there are cars leaving the pit lane. The racing line and the pit exit blend into one at quite an awkward moment right in the middle of a brake zone for turn one. So yeah, it's a point of interest with so many cars on this field.
So there in second place is Pedro Ibrahim. Marco Signoretti coming to the end of his stint, doing an absolute best first sector, a personal best second. So although the fastest lap of the race has gone to the leader, Robert Constantine, the Mustang there going through the shot is very rapid indeed. Doesn't end up doing the fastest lap, lost out a bit in the last sector. Mackenzie Cresswell's yellow McLaren is in. You can see the green Aston of Clement Zeiler in the pit lane as well. The Brunhagen Supra we were looking at with the tyre discussion.
The Charlie Hart McLaren, the other RAFA car there, with a lot of front damage on the front left, missing a huge amount of the bodywork, but the rest of it seems to be holding up okay at the moment. This race too, very much, they got the feeling of the last race of the weekend for these GT4 drivers. All hell is breaking loose, it feels like.
Hold on to your hats. Behind them is the number 1 Mustang that Michael Haverantz didn't get a time out of yesterday, but he's also hauled it up the order pretty effectively into 18th place from last on the grid. So there is Haverantz going nicely in that car that he shares with Nathan van Springel. Michael Haverantz, another of the Ford Performance Junior drivers, comes now onto Mistral Straights. So Robert Constantine, the race leader, by 3 seconds, having fought his way up past Pedro Ibrahim. Charlie Hart's not being slowed particularly by the lack of bodywork on that front left corner. A big bite missing, as you say, but made it a lighter car.
Yeah, slightly more aerodynamic in some ways and slightly draggy in others. I just wonder if that front fender is going to get ejected at some point. A huge amount of air rushing underneath that, and it won't be designed to support that. And yeah, luckily he's not damaged any of the internal radiators there, but maybe if they get to the pit stop and get some tape on it, they'd be okay. So maybe an earlier pit stop at the end of this lap might be a good idea for the RAFA Racing team. Michael
Haverantz also you saw gaining a place under braking for the chicane in Mustang number 1. It's another very rapid car at the moment. So from the back of the grid up into 17th place. And then the order is slightly shuffled by the early pit stops. And you've also got the car of Elias Niskanen, number 19 Mercedes, that lost a wheel in the qualifying session for this race, now within that top 20 as well. So some good fights going on, some good drives being put in as well right now.
Yeah, the pit stop cycling through. Remember, 88 seconds is the minimum, so 1 minute 28, sorry. So just looking at the timing screens, some cars under that, but they have got that second joker to use. So as long as no one's below 1 minute 27, everyone is okay, as long as they didn't use that joker in race 1.
And some pretty slow, 1 minute 31s we're getting from some. 1 minute 35 for which Porsche was that? Hendrik Still having taken over from Joachim Bolting, but that was a car involved in a spin, so maybe they just had a cursory look for any damage while they were in the pit lane. Robert Constantine then chasing on to the tail of some of the traffic now, and we understand also from the pits that 97, the Nielsen BMW, was struggling to fix some fastening, so that had a long pit stop as well. Also now, of course, you can lose time if you get boxed in, can't you? Because the pit lane is, yes, long, but also very busy.
Yeah, and it's it's hard. You come in and it can be quite clear and empty.
But have really struggled now. Ibrahim 3.4 seconds back, and I know that Piana had his spin, but he's pitted, having never really got into the top 3. So Beke Beşler has just taken over number 12 BMW. So the Boris
going strong and actually in a nice bit of space at the moment.
Yeah, number 96 BMW goes by. That's the car that Vasily Vladikin and Michal Loboda share. And the British Simpson team operating that for Continental Racing. Through the traffic, it goes past the slower of the speed car Audis. Right, Consonne, Ibrahim, Petit, Lassent, Signoretti, the leading 5, all in the pit lane this time, and they've got to be, because if they left it another lap, they'd be out of time. So now, not only is the pit lane busy, but it's full of very important cars to the outcome of the race. Benjamin Lariche on his toes, runs round with his seat cushion ready to jump on board.
Yeah, you can see that 81 McLaren's actually been pushed out. They'll actually count the drivers down when to leave the box and then count.
Into the race goes Benjamin Lariche, staying ahead of Yagish Gedik, who takes over number 11 BMW, and then it should be Paul Petit, but no, looks as though the BMW is going to be ahead. Let's see as that goes into the corner now. Paul Petit will stay ahead of the Toyota Supra of Hadrian David.
Yeah, but Van der Ende jumps them, and a relatively slow pit stop there from Paul Petit's Audi. They were nearly 4 seconds over the minimum time, so did they get blocked in? Did they struggle to restart the car? But
BMW with now Alain Gabet, number 31 Porsche, up the inside, and those two squabbling for position. Remember that the Gabet Porsche had a penalty. Big drama there for the Brunhagen Supra that gets turned around down in turn 4-5. Could be able to rejoin, but more time lost. Yellow flag out then in sector 1.
Yeah, one of the Mercedes didn't quite catch which car number that was. I can see it from the drawing, number 16, I think that was. Looked like a lazy turnaround there. I think that would be a drive-through penalty.
Andy Cantu behind the wheel of the car now, having taken it over from Miguel Cristobal, the NM Racing Team car number 16, one of the team's cars. We've seen the NM out in the previous race. Neil Montserrat as the race leaders then accelerate through the chicane. There up the inside goes number 1 Nathan van Springel. He moves himself past Andy Cantu. There in the pit lane, tyre change required by the look of it for number 28, Ajith Kumar's Porsche that was in the gravel in the first race, but the Indian actor doing a good steady job this weekend.
Yeah, and obviously started on wets as the one car shoots out of the distance there, and Aston Martin, wonder what happened there. It's coming back on the track, so hopefully A-OK, but yeah, definitely left scene there very fast. 61 Mustang now with Eric Evans aboard P9 at the moment behind the Mercedes. You can see the difference in these cars here, both front engine, but both very different sizes, and the noise of that Mustang as it blasts out this last corner. Let's just listen into it. Such a beautiful noise. Lovely deep rumble of a V8, yeah. Just what a race car should be.
Absolutely right. It's going to be an all-Mustang race at the Le Mans 24 Hours this year, which will be quite a sound. So Benjamin Lariche leads by 2.8 seconds then from Yagish Gedik. Ricardo van der Ende is in third. Now that battle is Luc Ibanez versus Eric Evans. That's for 9th and 10th, so they both drop back seemingly on the pit stops. And the real beneficiaries are Ricardo van der Ende third and Hadrian David in the Toyota Supra number 87 back up into 4th place.
Yeah, Ibanez has done a purple sector 1 on the previous lap though, so pace is in that car, and it does look like Evans is struggling to stick with him at this moment in time. Are they to make any inroads on Detroit in front and Beßler in front of that, maybe even Josh Raskin in the McLaren? So targets are set, but the pace of this Supra, David, is now looking very strong, isn't it? He's caught up Van der Ende and now on to his second lap of his stint. Needs to try and find a bit more pace if he wants to hold on to the final podium position.
Hadrian David was impressive, was he not, in his stint in the first race? Bearing in mind he's new to GT4 this weekend. Very good single-seater racer, had a spell in prototypes last year, racing in the Le Mans Cup, the LMP3 class. And I think this is going to be one to watch over the course of the season. An incident has been noted between the Brunhagens and Andy Cantu. That was the one you were talking about down at turn 4. He was suggesting a drive-through. Well, it's being looked at, that is for sure. Yeah,
I think it would be banged to rights. Just looked like he wasn't down the inside enough, and just essentially turned the car around. And yeah, I think a drive-through is the fairest penalty on that, as David.
Penalty information for car 16, causing a collision in T3, 10-second time penalty.
So 10 seconds to be added on at the end of the race. As here, Ricardo van Ende, Hadrian David fight for third place then. And they are lapping certainly slower than the leaders, and they're not going to be helping themselves by squabbling like this. They could do with working together because they're not that far behind Jagish Gedik there in second place. Here, coming up towards the line, nose to tail, Van der Ende just ahead of David. Then Greg Gilbert in the green Audi ahead of Josh Ratican. So the silver champion of last year going nicely. And down at turn one, way wide there, went, by the look of it, the Toyota Supra. Not for the first time in the race, and that's going to give Van der Ende a clear ride from corner or two. This is Ratican, forces Gilbert up the curb, tries to squeeze alongside, but it just doesn't have the horses in a straight line, that McLaren.
No, but I think he might be able to dive down the inside. He thinks better of it. Interesting, we're only just starting to get a dry line in places. That shows you how damp it was, and Ratican's shown us how damp it is on that wet part of the line, and that mistake has cost him a car length or two, so he needs to regroup now. And like we've said before, that McLaren fast in the corners, so hustles the Audi, but then if we stay with this drone shot, watch the Audi just start to edge away as they get onto the straight now. Full gas up to 230, 240 kilometers now. McLaren trying to stay with, but even in the slipstream, the Audi pulling away.
BMW, Ricardo van der Ende, he knows this car inside out. Hadrian David, second race in the Supra, so learning all the time, but he's a quick learner, is he not? There is Greg Gilbert, under attack still from Josh Ratican, so they're pairing off a bit. You've got more drama, Andy Cantu. He's got a 10-second penalty at the end of the race, but he's had a spin, and has he got a puncture as well on the front right? Yes, he has. So
more contact.
Indeed. Another incident, but this time the bite a bit, in a sense. He's come off worse. So trouble for Andy Cantu. That's in the first sector of the lap. And we've got 19 minutes of the race to go. This has been a rather more combative GT4 European Series race as you look at the fight for third. Van der Ende just ahead of David.
You know, this is how I remember European GT4. Action-packed, don't know where to look. Hard, fair at times racing, and beyond the limit in other instances as well. Ratican definitely the faster driver out of these two, but you've got to keep an eye out soon because the two cars behind catching quickly, aren't they? This is going to become a 4 or 5 car battle maybe within 2 or 3 laps if Gilbert can keep holding up Ratican.
That's right, as the cars now swing up through the approach to Virage Dupont, and Ratican thinks about the inside line. Behind him, it's Beke Bechler, then Baudouin Datou. Right, the leaders go by. 3.4 seconds is the margin, and it's going up. Lariche getting away, and here's this mad scramble coming over the line. So for fifth, deep breath, Greg Gilbert just ahead of Ratican, just ahead of Bechler, just ahead of Datou. BMW good in a straight line. There's another BMW good in a straight line, and that is Ricardo van der Ende keeping Hadrian David at bay.
Love to see the battle behind them because it was going to be too wide. Ratican had the inside but had the wet part of the line and stayed in second in this battle pack, but pulls weirdly to the left. That car has just turned off or lost power. He is going to grind to a halt if he can't restart that. That was very odd. All looked okay, then just went. And then we have the BMWs, that Cantu's car in the background getting behind the barrier.
Yeah, the Mercedes out of the race as you look there at 39 of Baudouin Datou. He's on the back of Beke Bechler. Coming out now of turn number 5, and Ratican is out of the race. The car's stranded, same place as Andy Cantu's Mercedes. 17 minutes to go, but it just slowed suddenly, if you can slow suddenly. Place is lost and it's parked as now look, Van der Ende has to go really defensive to keep Hadrian David at bay. Van der Ende covers off the inside line, and they're catching, are they not, to the tail of the lapped Audi as well, so they need to negotiate the speed car entry. Which way does it go? 44 Julien Ricard dodges out of the way. Past him now goes Van der Ende and Hadrian David, but this is a mega fight coming up towards Senior. Now Van der Ende covers off the inside line. Hadrian David goes to the outside. Is he going to be bold enough to try? Yes, he is, and it worked. Brilliant stuff. Hadrian David right round the outside going into Senior, and he doesn't even run up the curb. Beautifully done.
Amazing send that. Just went in with maximum commitment and hope in equal measures, and it's stuck. And now I think he'll be released and will have some mega pace. What can he do about the cars in front? There's another BMW in front of him, 4.2 seconds up the road. Van der Ende not seeming to have the pace to stay with that Toyota. Be interesting with the elite McLaren, because there was something going on in the last corner, because it did get down the inside of the Gilbert Audi, that I saw, and then had a weird snap, so there's some damage done there as we go to a battle further down the pack. Another car sending it around the outside. That is a great move from that dark coloured BMW on the black and green Mercedes, there. Nice, fair, hard racing from Victor Buveg there in the BMW.
And you've also got Hendrik Still, who led race 1 for the first half, sitting on the back of all of this. So the Toyota Supra, Gabriela Yilkova, is in the mix. So there's the Supra coming up towards the end of the lap then. Behind it is Victor Bouveng in the BMW. Then you've got Eric Tremblay. Then you've got Hendrik Still. This is 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th. And this quartet are all fighting for the lead in Pro-Am. We've got a time penalty being given to number 44 for track limits. That's the Repair Talamy lapped Audi. But here, a four-way fight for honours in Pro-Am. How about this? Hendrik Still up the inside of Tremblay. He goes third in class.
Yeah, some very fast drivers, and in this Pro-Am battle, this is for the lead of the race in their class. So far, very, very tight between all four. Hendrik Still looking like he's got good pace. Victor Bouveng all over the back of that Supra of Jilkova as well, and the drone shot still shows the BMW to the inside. Looks like he's got past. Is it going to keep it? Hendrik Still, I thought, might be able to get back. The Supra back to the inside. There's going to be side-to-side contact. Hendrik Still might be able to get a run on both of them. He does not at the moment. BMW has taken the class lead thus far. I don't think this battle's anywhere near done, though. No,
14 3/4 minutes to go. Next question, how many are going to finish out of these four? So it is now Victor Bouveng in the lead in the BMW, the almost bruise-coloured car, heading into the chicane, just ahead of Gabriela Yilkova. Hendrik Still, you might put your money on here, given that he was on pole position for the first race outright, but at the moment he can't get past that Supra, and sideways he's having to defend from Eric Tremblay. Back onto the Mistral they come then, so they power on up towards the right of senior. Victor Bouveng took over from Joachim Walder in that BMW and just about has the advantage in class. Roberto Faria, by the way, Aston Martin number 5, is doing 2 absolute best in the sectors, even though he's only 12th. Hendrik Still has a look up the inside of Gabriela Yilkova's Supra, can't do it, and has to cover off any challenge from behind from Eric Tremblay. And while their squad the BMW's gone.
Yeah, it really has. Big drift out of that chicane for Still. Then an interesting look into scene turn 10. I don't understand that one. It only compromised both him and the Supra in front, and that's let that BMW get away. Desperation there for me. Needs a bit more composure. Still on the Pro-Am podium, but that lead car BMW is getting away fast.
Is indeed. Yilkova then ahead of Still, ahead of Tremblay. Behind them is Vasily Vladikin. So in fact you could get 5 of the Pro-Am cars altogether. The next time penalty is coming for 812. That's the Callum Davis Charlie Hart McLaren for track limits. So 13 minutes to go. And this one has been non-stop, hasn't it? Although Benjamin Lariche leads the way. You could argue they were fortunate to get that lap time back after the innocence was protested. Had they been at the back of the group, would have been a very different story indeed.
Yeah, exactly. And the Rattigan car DNFing, that would have been interesting where that could have got. Josh Rattigan, defending champion, has scored points in every European GT4 race since 2003. So that ends a very good run of scoring of points in a very competitive championship.
Disappointment then for not just Josh, but also Eddie Ives' Elite Motorsport team, just running the one car this year. They've taken the other silver champion, Tom Leben, into GT3 in the International GT Open, running a Ferrari, so a lot of new going on there as well. Meanwhile, this Pro-Am battle continues. Gabriela Yilkova in the Toyota, you've got to say, doing a good job hanging on a second against Hendrik Still.
Yellow flag sector 1, she's squeezing Still all the way to the inside. I think Still's got the inside move now. Where do they break? Watch the cars dip. Still then gets back inside. Toyota looking to the inside once more. Still goes in deep. It's not going to get the best run out of this corner. Can the Toyota then get the run? The Mercedes followed by the BMW, followed by the Aston Martin. All now ready to pounce, aren't they? This battle pack forming quickly. Mustang as well lurking in the background. It's all starting to spice up. There's that Audi again. That could be helping. Yellow flag still in sector 1 as well. Turn 5 we're seeing. Car running wide there. The Mercedes onto the curb. BMW to the inside. Aston's going to go to the inside of that BMW. They're all hogging the inside, trying to block one another, but that is compromising. Going too wide. Aston could try and get a run on those two cars in front, then into this tightening corner, difficult to overtake.
You've now got the leading 6 in Pro-Am all together in the queue. So when it was 4, it's now been joined by Vasily Vladikin and Stanislav Savronov. There's the leading car in Pro-Am, trying to get away, but Henrik's still going after him. Another time penalty is looming. It goes to number 120 this time, as there the Pro-Am battle arrives at the last corner. Eric Tremolay up the inside, getting a bit squirrely under braking, up towards the line. Savronov has jumped ahead of Vladikin. Aston Martin goes ahead of BMW there. What have we got left? Just under 11 minutes.
It doesn't look like Hendrik Steele's got the pace to catch the BMW in front at the moment, does he? He's pulling away slightly from that Toyota, but not by much. Aston Martin still on the inside of that BMW, trying to cement that place. That battle going on for the last 4 or 5 corners. Back to green flag for these guys, attacking into sector 1. The yellow flag was out in 2 corners time, the previous lap, but now clear, so they can carry on fighting nice and hard.
So as the leaders work currently, lap number 19. It's looking a bit more frenetic in Pro-Am than it is in Silver, perversely, where Benjamin-Lariche is clear now by 4 seconds. Another yellow sector. No real surprise, given how fierce this fight is.
Contact there. Is that giving the Mercedes a rear right puncher potential? It was a big old hit. He's definitely slow through that left-hander. And then look at the Mustang's power coming onto the straight. Going to sweep past, but yeah, the front corner of that Aston Martin just starting to rough up the back of that Mercedes. So that was Safronov against Tremolay. Tremolay still going 3 wide. Mustang squeezed out wide by the BMW. They all run in deep to varying degrees. And then Tremolay is going to be able to get the cut back here. The BMW doing well to stay on track, and Safronov then decides he's got to open up the steering and get going on the throttle.
As the Pro-Am lead, BMW then, Victor Bouvin goes through 3.2 seconds clear, fractionally quicker in sector 1, and Henrik still nearly 6/10 quicker in sector 2. So he is having a good push now, trying to bring down that gap. As you look here at number 7, which is Stanislav Safronov, 96 is Vasily Vladikin. They're both now up past Eric Tremolay. So these two squabbling amongst themselves, yes, but also picking off the class opposition.
Yeah, no love lost here. There's lots of little taps going on between these cars. A little bit wide from the Aston Martin, the BMW not able to do anything, and actually Aston gets a good drive. There's the elite McLaren limping its way back, so yeah, obviously decided he didn't want to be part there, but that looks ominously close, doesn't it, through that last corner. Expect the elite car to dive for pit lane, which it does.
So there is Hadrien David, 3rd, but now right on the back of Jagish Gedik. So game on for 2nd place. Lariche pulling away up front, but 2nd and 3rd are together.
Information, car 27, 10-second time penalty for causing a collision in turn 5 with car 55.
Well, that is a car that's now 12 laps down of number 27, Fabien Dufieux. Right, 2nd place is about to change, isn't it? Hadrien David at the inside, and the BMW is in danger of getting boxed in by that back-marking Porsche. David has done it before the corner and has to squeeze through the traffic. He gets up past Ajith Kumar, so change for 2nd place. The Toyota Supra goes by, and the pace that Hadrien David has got, he's got to make up sort of 4.5, give or take, seconds in 8 minutes against Benjamin Lariche. Well, there is Lariche, and Hadrien David is a man inspired. He is absolutely charging.
Yes, it's not a no, is it, that he's going to catch him? There is one back marker in the way, but pace is good. This battle still raging on. BMW in front of the Aston Martin, in front of that Mercedes of Tremolay, fanning out the Mustang. Also wants to join the party. Pretty equal top speeds across these 4 cars. The Mustang probably having the advantage, but also having a triple slipstream will help. Tremolay goes in deep. They stay in the same order for now. The Mustang trying to make it round the outside, but Tremolay opens it up and off he goes. Great battle here. Still is catching, isn't he? Moving a little bit, but I don't think at the rate at the moment there's going to be a change for this Pro-Am lead. No,
Tremolay now is fending off the Silver Cup Mustang of Nathan Van Springel, although he's not. Van Springel's got past him. Replay there of the Vladikin-Safronov incident, as out wide goes Vladikin, but he gains ground by being off the road, so that may well get looked at, as there is the BMW coming out of Le Beausset with 7 minutes of the race to go.
Yeah, and that Aston Martin losing its wing mirror as well in that contact. So, yeah, Safronov rubbing up. So he's now lost his right mirror. You can see it flapping around. And that won't be a cheap part, to say the least. He might be out there later on the exit at turn 7 trying to find it.
Luke Ibanez in the number 15 Mercedes from the NM Racing team has gained a place as well. He's up into 6th place as Victor Bouveng to Henrik Still. The gap is down 2.9 seconds, but I don't think it's going to come down enough in time. Number 11, Jagish Gaidik, he's now on his final warning for track limits. Why do we single him out? Because he's third. It's significant for the overall order, especially given that the clock is ticking on down.
Yeah, car in front, David is one less than him, so he's had 4. Once you get your 6th, that is the penalty. The leader, however, has only used 1, so he kept his powder very clear. The yellow flag in sector 3 at the moment as this battle rages on. It's been semi-fair, hasn't it, so far, but these two drivers seem pretty pumped up at the moment to try and get somewhere near the last, this will be for 4th in Pro-Am, but then potentially can they catch the choke to get the final Pro-Am podium position. Hadrien
David is catching the race leader outright. There is Benjamin Lariche, and he was 3.3 seconds ahead at the start of this lap, but in the first sector, about 0.6 quicker was David. In the second sector, only 0.1 quicker, but the gap is certainly coming down. 5.5 minutes on the clock. Hadrien David is pushing. His last lap was round about half a second faster as well, so it's going in the right direction there. Look, that Toyota is absolutely flying.
Yeah, pushing it to the limit and beyond. See the attitude of the car, you can see the tyres underneath him rotating nice. Small set of 11 set from the rear as he jumps on the throttle. Gap last time round, 3.3 seconds to this Audi of Lariche. Lariche looks like he's struggling, car squirming in a negative connotation. It's when it's underneath you positively, you like rotation, but when it's just sliding around when you don't want it, that's the negative. What's the gap going to be at the line this time by BMW? Ofgedish also pushing hard, but he can't afford to run wide on any of these corners now. Final warning on his track limits.
Race leaders go by then. Benjamin Lariche 2.1 seconds clear, so the gap down again, only by, well, no, over a second, 1.2 seconds last time. So Hadrien David is having a mega push. Victor Bouveng is still leading in Pro-Am. This will be his first GT4 Europe win. He's been victorious in Scandinavia, but not in the European Series. So Victor Bouveng, number 98 in the BMW, is ahead of Henrik Still. Well, it was 2.1 seconds last time. They're heading up to the timing line as you look at the rest of the field go through, and the margin, well, they've yet to get to the line, in fact, as you look at the Aston Martins squabbling their way by. 51 has just been given a track limit penalty. That's the Mojica family's Ginetta, and Bouveng to Still. The gap is now a little bit reduced, but there's a car in between them as well. There is Victor Bouveng. He's got the Ginetta, has he not, of Ethan Gialdini between him and Henrik Still. So the margin in terms of time has come down, but the fact there's a car between them gives him a lot of protection. Look how much closer the Porsche is, though.
Yeah, and that Ginetta is not for class position, but it is overall, so it will not get out of the way of the Porsche of Hendrik Still there. So that's exactly how. And look at the damage on that 812 McLaren. It's got worse and worse, like I predicted, the air flowing in and ripping parts away. And yes, these are based on road cars, but that's still going to be 20,000 euros or so worth of damage, and fair play for the car making it to the end, though.
Julien Leandre here, who's taken over from Anthony de Barn, on target to win in Am from number 88, which is the Igor Sorokin Mercedes, and then Stefan Nilsson, it is currently in third in the Am class in number 97 BMW. We have got 3 minutes to go, so there's going to be possibly time for 2 more laps even at the end of this, depending on where Benjamin Lariche is. He's in the last sector, isn't he?
Yeah, and the gap's come down a bit, not as much, so maybe Lariche is responding now. Was just looking after the car, looking after the tyres, and now he knows he's got 2 more laps to go. He can probably drop the hammer and make sure he's using every last percentage of grip. But the gap last time round, 2.1 seconds. I think it will go down, but not the same rate as the previous lap. The team looking on nervously. The gap now down to 1.4 seconds. Another 0.6 taken out. Keep going at that rate. They're going to be bumper to bumper as they take the checkered flag.
And there'll be time for 1 more lap at the end of this. So 2 laps. That's good news for David. It's bad news for Lariche, who is the hunted. You saw Robert Consonny watching on from the pit wall. He and Benjamin Lariche make a great double act. But Hadrien David has been one of the standouts of the weekend, hasn't he? New to GT4 racing and going really, really well. Down through turn 3 they come. And the Toyota Supra edging closer. They're coming up to the end of the first sector. This will give us a chance to see how much ground, if any, has been gained. Still, Victor Bouveng is ahead, looking for his first European Series victory in Pro-Am. There is an ever more nervous looking Robert Consonny. as the gap is down by another couple of tenths. Hadrian David is almost there within striking distance. It's going to be an absolutely perfect finish now as he gets on the lights to try to distract Lariche. Good luck with that. Benjamin Lariche, if I call him one of the old stages of GT4, I don't mean that rudely, but he has been in this championship for a good number of years. This is Hadrian David's first weekend in the championship. Yes, he's made people sit up and take notice, but this is a fascinating battle between somebody that knows GT4 racing inside out and a really, really impressive new arrival.
Yeah, and there's no cars in front of them, so this could be a clean fight. Headlight flashing, still going. Interesting concept, flashing the car. As a driver, when I got flashed, it motivated me to dig deeper to make sure I didn't let this little minx behind me get past. Some drivers, it does agitate to a point where they make mistakes, but Lariche, I don't think is going to blink at that. Yes, he hasn't got the pace, but he's not going to make a mistake just with a couple of headlight bulbs flashing him in the rearview mirror.
Through they come, Ben. So it's Audi versus Toyota. Behind Jagish Gedic, he's hanging on to third place, but remember, he was caught and passed by that Supra and has fallen away. Fourth is another BMW, Ricardo van der Ende. Fifth is Beke Besler, who's had a good run to recover after Gabriele Piana's spin, and sixth is Luc Ibanez, and this is the Pro-Am lead, and it changes. Hendrik still goes by, so that's been a really impressive fight back, hasn't it? Because he was towards the rear of the initial four-car queue. He's had to find a way through the traffic and then go after the BMW. The Porsche gets a little bit sideways coming out of the corner, but Hendrik still, brilliant job. He's in the lead of the class. Can he hang on in there? Bearing in mind that car was delayed in a spin early on. We saw it way off the road, so they lost a big chunk of time. Leaders go by. Onto the last lap, 0.3 of a second. It is Benjamin Lariche just ahead of Hadrian David. Now we're going to see defensive driving at its absolute maximum. Yellow flag in this sector. That helps the Audi a little bit because it prevents the Toyota being able to find a way through.
Yeah, they're both sweeping over to the right. Is that just defence, or was that where they can see the car causing the yellow? Consani there on the pit wall, begging Lariche to be able to hold on for one more lap. We're into turn 5, another overtaking spot covered off by Lariche, but look how slow he is there. Overlap, there was a yellow flag, so that's for that car parked up on the inside, halfway around the lap. Can he keep holding on?
Now, this is the part of the circuit perhaps that plays into the strength of the Supra with all that grunt. Lariche goes wide up the curb. Is that going to compromise the exit onto the Mistral? Let's see. This is Hadrian David's best chance. Either side of the chicane. We've seen him go around the outside of people at senior, so he's not afraid to go toe-to-toe with anybody. He's not close enough into the chicane to make a lunge here. And Benjamin Lariche comes in very late on the brakes. Hadrian David, too late maybe. The car slides up the curb. He's still on the tail of the Audi, but that was a mega late braking effort. Nothing left on the table by Hadrian David, but all of that zealotry, as you see a BMW in strife in the background, Jagish Gedic from third place, all of that zealotry means that he's compromised the run back onto the Mistral straight, and an opportunity to challenge at senior went away.
Yeah, I think that was more like a Supra of too fast, too furious in European GT4. Great car control. I think Lariche ran wide to use a track limit up previously, and it was a wise move. I think Van der Ende is up to third. Is that a problem for that car? Now let's go back to this lead battle. David all over the outside. They're going to go side by side here. Be looking for the cutback, trying to get to the inside, which he does. Great move, slight side-to-side contact. Still going to be sideways all the way out this corner. They touch again.
And the Audi just comes out ahead, so to the inside line, hopefully will dive Hadrian David. No, because Lariche covers it off. Outside line there. It's going to be one last roll of the dice. One more corner to go. They're side by side into the braking zone. Hadrian David on the outside gets the undercut. Does he coming off the corner? It's going to be a sprint to the line then as they accelerate, almost overlapping up towards the timing line. It's going to be a virtual dead heat between the two. I reckon the Audi is just ahead. And as they come across the timing line, the result is a win for Benjamin Lariche by 76 thousandths of a second. Brilliant stuff. What a race.
And then where's Van der Ende gone? He was third. He's dropping down the order quickly.
Yeah.
And then the other two BMWs from Borsan Motorsport got there. That was a finish and a half. Hendrik still leading Pro-Am, still got Victor Boving right at the back. Huge slide into a spin from Kumar. Does well to get out of the way of these two. Does that help Boving? There's going to be another drag race to the line for the Pro-Am win.
Hendrik Still versus Victor Boving. Overlap as they come to the line. The BMW looks like it might just be ahead. We wait for the timekeepers to adjudicate. Porsche takes it by 2 thousandths of a second. Hendrik Still wins Pro-Am by 2 thousandths of a second. That is nuts, isn't it?
European GT4 drag racing there, wasn't it? I was convinced the BMW had the speed, then suddenly the torque of the Porsche pushed it through. That's got to be one of the closest finishes ever in a GT4 European race.
Wow.
Great racing from all, and that race had it from start to finish, but that's one of the best last laps I can remember.
Right, that was Silver and Pro-Am. The Ams have got to go some, haven't they, to beat a 2,000th of a second margin. 76 thousandths in Silver, 2,000ths in Pro-Am. Julien Leandre is going to come through there in the BMW to win in the Am Cup. It's not quite so dramatic there because he's got quite a big gap over Igor Sorokin, but what a race and a deserved win, you've got to say, for Benjamin Lariche and Robert Consonet. But boy, did Benjamin have to work hard for that. Gedic was third, Bessler fourth, Ibanez fifth. Ricardo van der Ende did drop back on that last lap to sixth. It's going to be quite a lot to catch up on.
Yeah, you said Lariche was old, didn't you? But that age gives experience.
Old stager, I suppose.
Oh, sorry, I just paraphrased that. But his experience came forward there, didn't it? And that is what won him the race. He didn't have the fastest car underneath him for the last few laps. David was pushing hard, did everything he possibly could. But the defensive driving for those last 2 laps, absolutely perfect from car number 3.
So let's try and have a look first up at the outright situation in Silver, side by side to the line. There's the checkered flag. That is what 76 thousandths of a second looks like. And even though the Toyota Supra has a long nose, it wasn't quite long enough. You could imagine Hadrian David sort of leaning forward in the car, somehow trying to urge it on. And Benjamin Lariche, well, what a drive, what a great way of defending. That car may not have had the pace of the Toyota. Clearly it didn't because it was being reeled in. Another lap would have been a different story, but he did just enough. And I think I've said before over the weekend, you only have to win by 1,000th as long as you win. Maybe that was a bit too close, even for Benjamin Lariche. He and Robert Consonet win from Hadrian David and Jan Duran. Jagish Gedic, Pedro Ibrahim third from Beke Bechler and Gabriele Piana. Luc Ibanez fifth with Alex Papadopoulos. And sixth, Ricardo van der Ende and Benjamin Lecen. And in Pro-Am, well, it was a virtual dead heat. The 2,000th of a second, Henrik Still and Joachim Bolting win from Victor Bouveng and Joachim Valder. So Victor is denied his first European win. And third in the class, another impressive effort actually, this Stanislas Savronov with Alexander Weintraub. And in Am, it went the way of Julien Leandre and Anthony de Barn, ahead of Keith Gatehouse and Igor Sorokin. Third, Mats Olsen and Stefan Nilsson. Wow. What a way to round out the weekend at Paul Ricard. Some brilliant racing, and that was the sort of GT4 of old. So much going on. Yes, we had a few more incidents in that race, but so much to talk about, and a brilliant lead battle. And I tell you, although the Toyota Supra always goes well here, because it was a car that had a win 12 months ago, Hadrian David has marked himself out as a real man to watch this season.
Yeah, he's got so much confidence in that car already, so that's only going to grow as he gets more laps and more experience. So I'm looking forward to watching him for the rest of the season. And if you've enjoyed watching this, then I can only say check out the GT World Challenge website for the calendar, and then if you can, come to the track and watch it live, because that's the only thing that is better, is experiencing it trackside and watching all of these cars hustle on, the sounds, the smells, and all the experience that goes with it.
Very enthusiastic Boristan automotive team cheer home Jagish Gedic and Pedro Ibrahim. That was the car that led early on. Those cars were dynamite on the damp track right at the very start, getting the tyres switched on really well. And Hadrian David will be really, really peeved, waiting to have missed out by such a narrow margin, virtually level as they came up to the line. But the winning cars required in the top 3 in the 3 classes being brought to the Parc Ferme area at the foot of the podium. The drivers then will make their way to the podium itself. And a great start to the GT4 European Series season. There are the winners. Benjamin Lariche at the wheel, Robert Consonet already out of the car. He's had a very difficult half an hour or so watching all of this, but Team Speed Car is absolutely delighted, as you can see. That is a very important win for them after a lot of bad luck last year. And a tough weekend. Bravo, Benjamin Lariche. What a way to defend, and what a finish. He and Robert Consonet embraced. Just absolutely delighted with that.
Easy to forget as well, they didn't register a lap in qualifying when we were watching it live yesterday, and then luckily they did get one of their track limit laps put back in and rescinded, so they were able to start on the front row. So that has been a roller coaster just over 24 hours for that team and car.
So Robert Consonet, former rally driver, walks through the Parc Ferme area. Benjamin Lariche, who's been racing for a long, long time, but he and Robert Consonet make a really good partnership. They've raced together, not just in the European Championship, but in the French series as well. And that relationship being put to very, very good effect this weekend. They came close, of course, to winning in silver last year, but ultimately it went the way of Josh Rattick and Tom Leben, despite the fact they won both races in Jeddah, but they were still outsiders at that point, couldn't really repel the Elite Motorsport Challenge. There, reflecting on it all, Adrien David, oh so close, but he should not be in any way disappointed or ashamed of that. That was a mega effort.
He almost like zoned out, didn't he?
Yeah.
He was like, I can't believe I didn't win that. Must have told himself with 2 laps to go, I've got this, and pumped himself up to a point where an amazing second place feels like a huge defeat by the looks of his body language.
For 76,000, you know, when you come across the line and you can think maybe, did I just get it? I think I did. And then the team say, you missed out by such a tiny margin. Well, they might look miserable, but the happiest smiles are going to be a Benjamin Larouche and Robert Consonny. They're with Alex Legui in Parc Fermé.
My word, what an incredible race that was. Thanks to these 2 gents who win the silver class, the second closest race of the day. Where to start? Talk me through what was going through your head, Benjamin, on that last lap.
Yeah, it was very tricky, very difficult, because we decided before the race to put the wet setup with the slicks. But it was very good at the start of the race, at the start of my stint, but But the 3, 4, 5 last laps, it was very, very difficult to keep the pace. And I'm very happy to win at home. First time we win in France, so I'm very happy because, also it's good to have a battle with Adrien David, a driver like this. We're coming from a single seater, and it proves the level of the championship. So very nice for the team.
Good for you and great for us too. Certainly for the championship. What a way to start your weekend.
No, I'm very happy because you have a big malediction at home, and now it's finished. We win, and we bring the cup at home, and I'm very happy. My team make a very good job. My teammate also, and I'm happy to go on the first top step on the podium.
Well done, boys. Congratulations. Thank you.
So lots of bad luck last year. The fact they were even in the hunt for the championship was quite a surprise in some respects, because penalties, damage, retirements, it all seemed to flood their way. Great start to the year, as you just heard both Benjamin Larouche and Robert Consonny say. They will go to the top step. 76,000 to the second, that winning margin. There's another penalty coming after the race. Ajith Kumar for a pit stop infringement. Another penalty has been given now to number 7, Stanislav Savronov, for leaving the track and gaining an advantage. But there are happy race winners then atop the Team Speed Car Audi. And yeah, GT4 European Series looks like it's going to be in for a mega season, that's for sure. Right, the even closer winners, Henrik Still and Joachim Bolting. They win Pro-Am.
And our Pro-Am winners who delivered the most exciting final lap ever, the closest race of the day. Talk us what was going through your mind as you came round that last corner.
Yeah, fuck, I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, it was so crazy. We came from P30 overall, and I think P5 or 6 in the class. Joe was hit by another car, so really unlucky for this. And then we go through the field. I can't believe it. And I mean, it was close the second last lap already. It was safe for me already, the lead. And then, yeah, just the M car in front of me spun. I was so scared. I was looking for Victor, who he is with his BMW, and I didn't see him. And then I saw he's next to me, and crazy. I mean, in the end, we have a little bit advantage on top speed, so we made it by 2,000 or something like this. Crazy race.
I'd love to have heard your radios over that. Yeah. Joachim, when we spoke earlier, you told me on the grid that you were feeling nervous and that you did not expect to win this weekend.
Yeah, that was what I expected when we started the race. Because of the conditions, it was not really dry. It was a little bit around wet and dry, and with the slicks it was very tricky because a lot of guys were braking very late and spun, and yeah, someone hit me, so I had to focus the rest of my race, but I think I did an average job, and so Henrik made the rest.
Well done, boy. It's all down to those lucky shoes you were telling me about earlier. He's got lucky shoes on.
Yeah, that's my name, so everyone knows how is my name. That is all.
Boys, well done, well deserved. What a great way to start your season. Congratulations, and go and get up on that step.
Well done to Joachim Bolting, Henrik Still. Apologies for the colourful language of Henrik Still. I get the feeling that there's a lot more that Alex needs to investigate in this car over the year. There are the shoes, there's the wearing of the cap, there's the clown's face on the side we need to unravel as well. It's a car of characters.
I know we're impartial, but he's my favourite driver by a mile. I've never seen someone wear a hat like that, and I'm truly influenced. But great performance from them both, and I want to see more of this car as the year goes on. Circus and a clown.
The circus has come to town, hasn't it? What a finish. Yeah, Henrik Still talking about having a bit of a top speed advantage. Well, Victor Bouveng may disagree because he was almost level. Let's look at the highlights of race 2 of GT4 European Series. This could take a while. A lot went on, and it all began with Jan Durand taking the lead in the Toyota Supra, but running out of road at the first corner, chased through by Benjamin Lassen, and that meant that briefly into the lead of the race went Paul Petit, the number 8 Audi, but he got shuffled back in the pack as the cars ran down towards turn 4. 1 or 2 more ran off the road, and eventually things calmed down just a little, although we did have the Mojica family, Ginetta, being turned around, cars scattering and avoidance, and then a spin also for Marco Signoretti when he tangled with Gabriele Piana. In the end, the Mustang that won the first race was a long way down the order, but on the track, into the lead of the race went Robert Consigny. He relayed Benjamin Lariche on the pit stops. And there's some great battles going on the other side of that, especially in Pro-Am, where initially Gabriele Yilkova led. She was then outmaneuvered by Victor Bouveng. Henrik Still's Porsche started to pick its way through the traffic as well. That's up into second place, charged Adrien David in the Toyota Supra. Next target for the race lead would be Benjamin Lariche. And as they battle their way onto the Mistral late race, Henrik Still had managed to find a way past, but the story was not over. It all kicked off ahead at the last corner. For the race lead, it was going to be side by side. Adrien David versus Benjamin Lariche. The Toyota tried the outside, then got up the inside, and the drag race to the line saw them come through with 76 thousandths of a second, the margin in favour of the Lariche-driven Audi. And if you thought that was close, Pro-Am could outdo it. There was a delighted Robert Consigny, but it was 2 thousandths as Henrik Still fended off Victor Bouveng. And there, the winners in silver, Jagish Gedik, Pedro Ibrahim already on the podium for third. For second place, you can see Adrien David and Jan Durand thinking, but for 77 thousandths would have been ahead. And then for the top step, Robert Consigny and Benjamin Lariche at the end of a stunning race. So a very popular result. French teams first and second, and Benjamin Lariche just being able to hang on to win as Rafa Martinez, the man behind the RAFA Racing Club, competitor in this championship last year, steps forward with the trophies. Hands to third place, Pedro Ibrahim. Another podium. He was a GT3 class winner last night and a podium finisher today in GT4, along with Jagish Gedik. The trophies for second go to Jan Durand and Adrien David, who can barely force a smile, I'm afraid to say. So disappointed he is. For Team Speed Car, the winning team's trophy, and they're the winning driver's trophy to Robert Consigny and to Benjamin Lariche, who are absolutely delighted and probably not just a little relieved as well. And the newcomers trophy then to Jan Durand, receives that as well. Fabulous job done by the Matmut Evolution team. So Robert Consigny being encouraged with the champagne. First of all, though, the photographers want the picture of everybody with their Paul Ricard themed trophies aloft. That was quite a race, wasn't it?
Incredible. Generally one of the best races I can remember in some time. And yes, we had some contact. We never want to see that, but none of it was reckless. It was all hard racing induced.
So the champagne is sprayed, and there's always one driver this weekend on the podium that seems to struggle with the cork in the bottle. It's one of the Toyota drivers this time. But Robert Consigny is a very happy man as he stands on the top step. 2 races done there, 1 event down. And it is Jan Durand and Adrien David who have been consistent across the course of the day. And they now have the championship advantage, only by 3 points from Benjamin Lariche and Robert Consigny. And Marco Signoretti and Eric Evans ended up in the second race 8th and have won the first. All good points for them. 4th, Ricardo van der Ende, Benjamin Lassen from Alex Papadopoulos and Luc Ibanez. 6th, Yagish Gaelic and Pedro Ibrahim. So certainly the silver contest has proved to be a very, very competitive one, and more of the same in the other classes for sure as well. The GT4 European Series in for another very, very busy season and some great racing. And again, we're sort of discovering new people, aren't we? Letting themselves into GT4 and coming up on top. Hadrian David particularly, I think, one of the real stars of the day. So the next podium is going to be for the Pro-Am drivers, as forward come Victor Bouveng and, well, the result has changed, in fact, already with penalties. So third in the class would have been Gabriela Yilkova and Cindy Goudet, but they are not yet on the podium. So this is a slightly erroneous third. Second, anyway, to Joachim Walder and Victor Bouveng. That's fine. And the winners, Henrik Still and Joachim Bolting. But with penalties being applied and the result shuffling, third ought to be now the Toyota drivers Gabriela Yilkova and Cindy Goudet. So what we have on the podium is slightly misleading now. So Henrik Still and Joachim Walder the winners. Second place to Victor Bouveng and Joachim Walder. And third, because of a 5-second penalty to Savronov and Weintraub, now goes to Gabriela Yilkova and Cindy Goudet. So I have a feeling that last year here, a class win was taken away from Savronov and Weintraub as well. So there's something about Paul Ricard and podiums that aren't really their friends. Anyway, enjoy your moment with the trophies, chaps, because you might need to be giving those back soon. Second place is easy enough, as I say, Victor Bouveng and Joachim Walder, and Rafa Martinez again steps forward to give now Joachim Bolting and Henrik Still the trophies. Great character Joachim Bolting is proving to be. He's had a really good day, hasn't he?
Amazing. Good things happen to good people.
Yeah,
let's go with that one. And let's believe in karma. Let's hope he gets the bottle that gets the stuck cork. That will make this weekend perfect. So far, so good for that.
Yeah, he's got the good bottle. So a good class win. Joachim Bolting has only been racing for 8 seasons, but a very quick and enthusiastic am, and celebrating on the podium in time-honoured style. And there you get a perfect example of his now famous race boots, his colourful shoes that he was explaining about to Alex de Guy. We need to investigate more of this circus sponsorship on the car as well. This was how close it was in the Pro-Am competition. That is 2,000th of a second. That's nothing at all.
It just looked like the BMW was ahead for so much of that drag race until the final 50 yards where it counts.
So as far as the championship is concerned, it's going to be a really fascinating season, I think, in Pro-Am. And under what have been rather overcast skies at Paul Ricard today. Now finally the track goes quiet. Already the circuit staff are out sweeping bits of the rubber and debris away. And of course that race had a safety car period early on. The final podium is going to be for the AMs, and the drivers there being brought forward very shortly. So some great racing we've enjoyed out of GT4 European Series, and set for a really competitive year. That is absolutely for certain. So there, stepping forward, are BMW Schubert Motorsport drivers Stefan Nielsen and Mats Olsen. Second place in AM will be to Igor Sorokin and Keith Gatehouse, the Mercedes drivers for NM Racing Team. And then it will be another class victory for Julien Leandre and Anthony Daban, who will step forward very shortly. The Mercedes drivers, first of all, Igor Sorokin, Keith Gatehouse, clamber to the podium. Handshakes all round, and then Anthony Daban, Julien Leandre will make their way to the top step. And honours to the Chazal Technology course team, something of experts of winning in the AM class in GT4. good to see healthy representation in the AMS as well. It might be, if you like, the third class when it comes to the podium, but numerically it's strong, and pretty much everybody within it has found a playmate.
Yeah, it's a really important part of all GT racing is the bronze-rated driver, and yeah, they're the cornerstone of it, and it's good that they've got a complete cast just for bronze-graded drivers, shares the budget between them, so it makes it more affordable and accessible to more drivers.
Robert Consony doing the fastest lap of the race outright, incidentally, as you see Rafa Martinez presenting the winners' trophies, and happy drivers pretty much all round. Trophies in the air, and really good day for Julien Leandri and Anthony Daban. As I say, the results still being tweaked with penalties being applied. Anthony Daban and Julien Leandri try and go after their team, I think, rather than get saturated by everybody else on the podium. Igor Sorokin and Keith Gatehouse struggling with their bottles of champagne. But some good racing we've enjoyed all day long. This is how we look in AM in the championship. Jean-Mathieu Leandri and Anthony Daban, 2 wins. Then they are ahead of Igor Sorokin and Keith Gatehouse. Philippe Talamy and Julien Ripert are third in the standings at the end of our opening race of the championship. Right, the GT4 European Series in for a cracking season. We'll see you next time. Goodbye from Ricard.